Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
¿Qué quiere, Fremine? ¿Qué estás haciendo?
Finally made it. I assume this means you completed your mission?
Mm-hmm. Any mission Father assigns to me will always be top priority.
Con la ayuda de Nosfatui, Fremine subió una placa al escenario. ¡Es la otra placa! La arconte hidro anterior creando un ser humano. ¿Qué?
So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around some dangerous stretches of water. But has the trial already concluded? Then doesn't that mean I've come too late? Oh no. Father will be disappointed in me.
Tranquilo, llega su tiempo.
Thank you for your hard work,
¿Pregunta?
Mr. Fremine.
¿Qué pregunta?
Please allow me to review the record left on the slate. Traveler, I believe that you have
Doña
already
Shadi.
seen the other existing
Excuse me,
slates.
¿desde cuándo me
I'd like
dices
you to
doña?
come here and confirm their contents.
So what do you see? What is it?
Esto. No, hombre, te digo vieja. Es la antigua arconte hidro usando su poder divino. Convirtió. ¡Ah! La arconte hidro convirtió ciánidas en
I
humanos.
believe I've now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
O sea que todos los humanos de. O sea, toda la gente de Fontaine eran.
Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Farina, and we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kinda talking about?
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates. However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Están relacionadas con la realidad.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents.
¿Puedes ver
of the
videos? Es que me
other
acordé de
three
algo
stone
como
slates.
con Fremine llegando
We'll
de la
do our
nada.
best to help you remember.
Ahorita estamos en esta misión. Queremos terminar el directo, pero terminando esta misión. So, no creo que hoy alcance, tal vez mañana sí alcance. Solo las mismas se puede prestar aquellas información de clave. De los incidentes de puntos de mando de la entrevista, encontré situaciones. Ajá. Nivel del agua de la fuente de interfaz. Cuando corroboré se le había decidido a todas las placas. La verdadera identidad de la profecía.
The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn into humans.
O sea, es que tiene sentido porque entonces se supone que Fontaine está como que, o sea, porque es lo mismo como lo que pasó con Caenria. Llegaron a un punto, este pueblo sin arconte, a tener tanto poder y a desarrollar mucho su tecnología a puntos en que ellos mismos podían como que crearse como dioses. Y de ahí la orden celestial dijo, no, humanos creando dioses, aquí no, con permisa, y los castigó. Y pasó lo que pasó. Y con la arconte hidro pudo haber sido algo similar. Soy una diosa y creo de la nada humanos. Y la orden celestial dijo, dioses creando humanos, na, castigadísima. Es lo que parece que es esto.
Does that mean that Fontanians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. But if Oceanids can turn into humans, then perhaps this process can be reversed as well.
Y por eso, por ejemplo, las chicas desaparecidas se convirtieron en una sola ciánida. El mar primigenio es lo que quedó de magia de la arconte anterior.
The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But the heavens still brought judgment down upon them. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the original sin and the Hydro Archon sin are the same thing? The third slate shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea, surrounded by many people.
Ah, pero esta es otra, que es la actual.
That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to someone else?
Ajá.
Well, the
A Navia.
fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon crying on her throne, and so on.
Ya se disolvió gente en el
We
mar.
didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was just a question of when and not if.
Su imagen parece retratar al anterior arconte Hidro usando su poder divino, tras lo cual los Oceanas se convirtieron en personas.
We know from the case
Ajá.
of the serial disappearances of young women
Que se puede
that Fontanians can be
revertir eso.
dissolved in primordial seawater.
Oye,
And
metiéndole
the
lore a
first stone
Genshin,
slate
oye,
tells
dándole
us that
contenido a
long
Genshin.
ago, the Hydro Archon used her power to turn Oceanids into humans. This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve.
Retrata a Celestia flotando en el cielo, y el arconte Hidro y su pueblo arrodillados mientras la miran. Aún así parece que Celestia los castigó.
Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Nervilet mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia, as recorded on the stone slates.
Y se vuelve a repetir, se tiene que castigar, pero no se castigó como debía. Unidos del mar rodeada de muchas personas, y aquí es lo que ponemos de que Navia.
It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in
Trajeron
the
que
sea.
relleno el contenido y esa avaricia.
Could that be alluding to the same thing?
O sea que se pudo haber llegado a castigar al arconte Hidro, pero entre este mar primigenio donde estaban castigándola, lo mismo que pasó con Navia. Alguien que ya estaba en el mar primigenio trató de salvar al arconte y yo creo que el arconte dijo, no, tú levántate entonces como la nueva. O capaz, no sé. Coincide hasta la perfección con lo que ofreció Fontaine. Al final toda la gente de Fontaine se disolverá en el mar y solo quedará el arconte Hidro sentada en su trono divino mientras llora.
That doesn't sound...
Oh, chihuahuas. Ni siquiera Forina sabe por qué. No, tampoco. ¿Por qué lo ni-
The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believed it at first. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with
No, sí,
primordial
siempre
seawater,
hablaban.
which we know can cause Fontanians to dissolve. It seems increasingly likely that the prophecy may come true. If we hadn't dealt with it in time, things could have gone very badly.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea, but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater, converge, and take the form of an Oceanid. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was actually Fontaine's original sin. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness, and was forced to take part in a trial meant to make her stay.
Charlaban por 3 líneas cada región.
The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The stone slate's contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together, loads of truths should come to light.
Ok, pero ¿luego qué?
Huh? Oh, Paimon gets it now! So that's how you can make sense of it! But then it feels like we're going to have to share some truly shocking revelations.
Let's hear them.
La primera placa demuestra que la gente de Fontaine no es realmente humana.
Incredible. Linny, did you hear that?
We're not real humans.
O sea, en descendencias, en cierta parte sí son en
All
descendencia.
Fontanians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon, with Oceanids as their basis. The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher dissolved were also turned into Oceanids. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial, all of them in the shape of Oceanids.
Indeed.
La segunda placa demuestra que el pecado del Arconte Hidro fue crear a la gente de Fontaine.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating humans without prior permission. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's to account for that ancient sin.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating us?
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese. The twists of history are often the most unexpected of all.
La tercera y la cuarta deberían ir en orden contrario.
Isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate?
La cuarta placa hace referencia a la profecía que todos
In
conocemos.
the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Only then will the sins of the people of Fontaine be washed away. Did Paimon get all that right?
Sí, sé todo bien.
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden information using a different power source. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But since we only had 3 slates at the time, I was unable to come to a full conclusion.
Ahora, tomando en cuenta quién fue el que anotó esto, porque claramente el que anotó esto es porque se lo dijeron o lo presenció.
Now that the slate
La que
collection
más
is
queda en
complete,
esto es Furina.
I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. If everything goes well, we should finally be informed of the unadulterated truth.
Lo hizo el dragón elemental anterior.
Well?
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. I will try to briefly summarize it for you.
Ah, caray.
Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontanians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land.
Huh.
The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the 7, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontanians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of
Estoy
the
diciendo que los
primordial
perros de Fontaine
sea.
son gotas.
That
No, nada
is
más
the
los
true
humanos.
history
Nada
of how
más
the
los
people of
humanos.
Fontaine first came into being.
Los humanos de Fontaine. No son humanos.
So you... We were all
Irónico, la
before we
verdad.
turned into human beings?
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontainian, but it does answer a lot of our questions.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct.
Entonces, ¿qué retrata la tercera placa?
A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved,
Estoy diciendo que
which
Gretel no
implies that
existe.
the water
Gretel es
depicted
una
in this slate
oceánida,
is
no
not
es
water
humano.
from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the third slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of justice.
Entonces esto,
Yes,
estábamos haciendo justo
it
lo que
refers
estaban
to
haciendo
our
las
present
placas.
situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is,
Salganse de
even
Twitch,
though
quiero
we
estar
decided to
solo.
put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the
Pello
prophecy,
Sora.
in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold. So now, it seems, we're the ones making sure it comes true.
O sea, ¿qué va a pasar de todos modos que Fontaine desaparezca?
What should we do?
Es como si el destino lo controlara todo.
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled. Is this what it feels like to be a prisoner of fate?
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also be fulfilled soon?
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions.
Huh?
About the fourth slate. You probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass, yes?
Se
However,
supone que Fontaine será
I believe
consumido
that
por el
rather than
magmigenio,
being a
¿no? O
sure
sea, sí va a estar
sign,
completamente
that
bajo
eruption
agua.
could in fact only be a small warning of something far worse to come.
Algo peor.
As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered it once before.
Lo he visto.
This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the disaster.
¿Qué fue lo que realmente lo provocó? La ballena.
It was both dream and reality.
Claro, es que, o sea, sacaban la ballena, pero como... Hold on, la ballena.
Culprit, that can only be that thing inside the primordial sea, right?
The truth, the original sin, the trial, and the root cause of the disaster.
La cámara de Jade. Se supone que Fontaine se acaba. ¿Por qué la cámara de Jade? ¿Qué está pasando? De foca así de repente dijo la ballena, me han llamado, yo aparezco. Excuse me. deja de estar flotando. ¡Nobile! Esto no tiene ningún sentido en absoluto. No, no te regreses. Acabas de salir. No te pases, Nobile.
That was way too close. How did that thing just
Nobile.
burst into the opera house? Wait, was that the huge whale you saw in your
Pelirrojo
dream?
de resbaladizo. Venga acá usted. Es la ballena que Nobile vio cuando era pequeño.
So we've met it at last. I understand very well why it has chosen to make an appearance here.
Porque hablamos de ella.
That whale does not belong to Tevat.
No
It
es.
is a monster that has traversed the stars, weeping all the while.
¿Qué?
It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, using it to grow. That is the main cause for the rising sea levels.
Los crotes podemos hacer cosas que los mortales no. El mar débil de los Harvick.
And once
Exacto.
it has finished consuming all of the energy contained within the sea, its next step will be...
You said that when the Hydro Archon first created Fontanians out of Oceanids,
Metió agua del mar primigenio.
she
Y cuando
filled
se
their
acabe el
blood
mar
vessels with
primigenio,
primordial seawater.
claro, se va a comer a la gente de Fontaine.
Precisely. That whale finds the blood of Fontanians nigh impossible to resist. Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of food. Food in the form of Fontanians.
We just barely managed to push it back, right? In that case, won't it come back to target the people again once it's managed to recover its strength?
That is correct. Indeed, it is more accurate to say that we should thank that Harbinger for buying us some time. Without him, the whale would have likely come onto land far sooner. From the way he looked, he must have been fighting the creature for quite a long time.
That battle maniac. We've always known that he had a special connection with that whale, but we definitely didn't expect it to help us out like this. Anyway, now that we know that this whale is the actual cause of the disaster recorded in the prophecy, all we need to do to stop the prophecy would be to find a way to beat it up, right?
Sí, no va a ser difícil. Ya hemos derrotado a arcontes mucho más antiguos. Un monstruo de 1000 y un tantas cabezas, por ejemplo.
It is too late.
Como que demasiado tarde.
It had already absorbed too much of the primordial sea's energy before we could notice it. At this point, it has become practically integrated with the sea itself. Even if the entirety of Tevat were to be destroyed, it could still survive and swim off towards some other world.
O sea, no sé tú, pero yo estoy viendo esto más grande.
That's not something I will accept. We've already done everything we can, and we even found the true culprit. We've come so far. You can't just tell me that the last hurdle is some impossible foe.
Por
That's just
supuesto,
not fair.
Navia.
Indeed, that's not how a grand performance should end.
I'll fight it to the end, no matter what.
So the prophecy will be fulfilled no matter what, huh?
No, si nos entrometemos.
The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future.
Es imposible luchar contra el destino. Un momento, el destino.
Just as prophecies are usually only the future,
Desde
as
la
seen from the
perspectiva de los
perspectives
dioses.
of the gods. Could things be happening in hidden corners where the gods' gaze does not fall? Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Tevat's future. All you need to do is to play your part.
Tal vez aunque la profecía se cumpla de verdad, sí que hay una manera de salvar a los demás. Debe de haber algo que se me está escapando. Claro, Furina. ¿Qué es lo que iba a contarnos cuando estábamos en el baúl mágico gigante? ¿Cuál es el secreto de Furina? ¿No nos iba a decir que no era arconte? El Oratrice Mechanic Canalis Cardinal. ¡Al fin lo dije bien!
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
Farina!
No, I still need answers.
¿Qué caray? ¿Excuse me? ¿Qué está haciendo Furina con ese diferente traje?
You.
Como que tú. What?
Sorry. That shocked expression on your face is just too amusing. I couldn't help myself.
Es una voz bastante diferente, eso claramente.
You are not Farina. Who are you?
The sweet sound of
Fosalors.
bewilderment. Marvelous. A sure sign that my attempt to deceive everyone was a resounding success. But to answer your question, I am Fosalor. You know, the god.
A ver, hold on. Por eso es de que yo decía, ¿por qué tiene dos nombres, Furina y Fosalor? Pero pues también todos los otros arcontes tenían sus diferentes nombres, ¿sabes? O sea, Morax, Rex Lapis, etcétera, etcétera. Shogun Raiden. ¿Y ahora esto? O sea, Furina es la que conocemos, la que no es la verdadera arconte, la que es prácticamente humana. ¿Y Fosalor es esta?
Fosalor.
O sea, que sí es bipolar. Había dos personalidades en el mismo cuerpo.
Oh, that wasn't my goal, of course. Goodness, no. But I had to fool everyone else too, if I was to stand any chance of deceiving the heavenly principles.
Engañar al orden celestial.
Deceiving the heavenly principles.
It's all because of that pernicious prophecy. Dreadful, wasn't it? Everyone doomed to dissolve. Fontaine condemned to be flooded. One was not amused. In fact, one was positively bemused when that problem was thrust upon me by my dearest predecessor. That's the former Hydro Archon Egeria for the uninitiated. It hardly gets more disastrous than a preordained national catastrophe, now does it? She knew full well that the prophecy would surely come to pass. And as one of the seven, she also knew full well that one defies the heavenly principles at one's peril. So yes, as you have no doubt surmised, it was a rather impossible situation that I found myself in. I spent a terribly long time mulling it over, alone on the ocean floor. And I was almost growing barnacles by the time I finally realized there was only one possible solution to this confounding conundrum. I had to outwit the heavenly principles, allow the prophecy to be fulfilled, ostensibly at least, while saving everyone at the same time.
¿Cómo?
I'm a genius, I know.
¿De dónde si
I
todos
can only
estos
assume that's why Egeria chose me as her successor. Although, looking back now, It was hardly the inheritance one dreams of. Between the task of saving the nation, the quotidian duties of the Hydro Archon, and not to mention the original sin of creating a new race of humans, I dare say she left me quite a colossal mess to clean up. But one can only play the hand one is dealt. I did not choose this, any more than I chose to be one of her Oceanid familiars.
So you were also once one of the Oceanids, transformed into a human by Egeria's hand.
Yes, I was. I always dreamed of becoming human. And I still do, even now. In my eyes, to be human is to be part of the greatest opera ever known.
Claro, simplemente fingiendo hacer un papel que nunca fue.
After becoming a god, I separated my divinity from my body and spirit, leaving behind only a self that was as naive and bewildered as my past self on her first day as a human being.
Yeah.
The me you see before you now is that divinity. And the human counterpart I left behind, I named Farina.
Yeah.
She could feel joy,
Por eso tenía dos
sorrow, and
personalidades.
everything in between. She could be as vain and conceited, or as meek and vulnerable as she wished. Her strengths
Su
were
lado
of a kind
responsable
only a
era
human
esta.
could possess, as were her shortcomings.
Sí, pero bastante exageradas, comadre.
But in my
Te
eyes,
emocionaste.
Farina's humanity was what made her perfect. She was perfectly human in every way. The person I always wanted to be. Anyway, so then I cursed her.
Es que luego lo
All
maldije.
part of the plan, of course. The plan to deceive the heavenly principles. Do you still remember the final scene of the prophecy? The Hydra Archon alone, weeping on her throne.
Pero eso de que llorara sola es porque la personalidad divina va a morir. ¿Qué es lo que va a pasar ahorita?
In order that the prophecy might appear fulfilled, I invited Farina to be an actress, to play the part of the Hydro Archon in the prophecy.
Pero Furina entonces es como una marioneta tipo Raiden de A. La verdadera arconte es A, pero la que ve todo el mundo es a Raiden, que es la marioneta, que tiene una personalidad así muy... Pero obviamente entonces Furina es una marioneta un poco más sofisticada, porque ella sí tiene personalidades. Eso es lo que me estás comentando.
Under the curse I placed on her, so long as I, Focalor's divinity, continued to exist, she could not die. But nor was she free to live her life in the pursuit of happiness. Instead, she was forced to take the stage in the opera house, to embrace the role of leading lady, to forever play the part of the god from the prophecy, all to create a deceitful appearance of that prophecy coming to pass. I suppose now you probably understand why your court is called the Opera Epiclese.
But Farina is only human, isn't she? Even though she has had a long life, her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human being. I cannot begin to fathom what she has had to endure.
Claro.
It has indeed. And although she is, in a sense, me in human form, I most definitely owe her an apology for it. It's been 500 years.
500 años.
And all
Imagínate ser
along,
humana y estar 500
she's been
años viviendo
playing her part
obligada
in the most
a
unimaginably
fingir un papel que
long,
nunca fue.
unbearably lonely, and agonizingly painful opera of all time.